They said humanity had no place in the archives of creation, that we were too young, too reckless, too fragile to sit at the table where the oldest civilizations carved their destinies into the stars. For a long time, perhaps even we believed it, until the day the blueprints were found. Before I tell you the whole story, hit that like button, subscribe. Now, let me take you to the story. It started not in some shining laboratory on Earth, but in the dust-choked ruins of an alien vault orbiting a dead world. The place had been a tomb for millennia, locked in silence, its guardians long gone. But when human explorers cut through its broken gates, they uncovered something even the oldest galactic empires had hoped would remain buried forever. Designs, blueprints etched into strange crystalline lattices. Plans for structures that seemed impossible. Bridges that could span light years, engines that could bend the fabric of reality, weapons that could silence suns, and cities that could feed on the very vacuum of space. Vault called them the architect's legacy. The aliens who first discovered them had tried to erase it, but they had failed, and now humanity had them. At first, the galaxy laughed. The elder races whispered among themselves, amused that these upstart primates thought they could make sense of what even they had abandoned. They remembered the wars those designs had once unleashed, civilizations that tore themselves apart trying to build what should never have been built. The blueprints weren't just knowledge, they were temptation, a poison dressed as progress. The Galactic Council had destroyed entire fleets to keep them hidden. To the elder races, humanity was a danger enough with nothing but iron ships and stubborn will. With these blueprints, with the forbidden designs of the architects, they feared not what we would do, but what we would try. They sent their emissaries. They demanded we turn them over. But humanity did not burn the blueprints. We studied them, quietly, patiently. Generations of our brightest minds pored over them, and slowly, what had seemed like madness began to take shape. The designs were not written in equations alone. They were written in metaphors, paradoxes, patterns that seemed alive. The elder species had dismissed them as impossible because they required a kind of thinking they could not imagine. But humanity had always thrived in the impossible. We were a species that built wings from wood, ships from steel, engines from fire. We were reckless enough to dream, stubborn enough to fail, and foolish enough to try again until the impossible bent. The first prototype was small, a bridge no longer than the length of a city street. It didn't just bend, it folded. 2 points in space separated by miles became one. Engineers walked across and returned trembling, whispering that it was like stepping through a dream. The galaxy panicked. When the elder races learned we had succeeded where they had failed, they summoned us to the council chambers in fury. They accused us of violating sacred law, of awakening a power that could not be controlled. They warned us of what had happened before, of the wars that had nearly ended the stars themselves. And yet, in their fear, there was something else. Respect. Because the truth was, they had always feared these blueprints, but not because of what they were. They feared them because they had always known someone would come along who would understand. And that someone was us. We built more, slowly, carefully. A city that ran without fuel, pulling energy from the vacuum between atoms. A ship that could fold through space without tearing holes in the void. A weapon so devastating it was never fired. Its existence enough to silence those who threatened us. The galaxy watched in awe and terror. Some begged to share in the knowledge, others plotted to steal it. But what none of them understood was that the blueprints had never been meant for the old empires. They had been waiting for a mind that could see not just equations, but stories, not just machines, but metaphors. Humanity had always told stories about impossible things, castles in the sky, ladders to the heavens, magic doors. To the architects, Those stories weren't nonsense. They were keys, and humanity had carried them all along. The more we built, the more we realized the blueprints weren't teaching us technology. They were teaching us to think differently, to see the universe not as a cage of rules, but as a canvas of patterns waiting to be drawn. And the galaxy began to change. Where once there had been stagnation, there was now possibility. The old empires, long content to recycle the same technologies, suddenly raced to innovate again. But they could not keep up, because for humanity, failure was not the end, it was the path. The galaxy called us dangerous. They called us reckless. They said we would bring ruin. Maybe we would, but maybe that ruin was necessary, because the stars had grown complacent, ruled by those too afraid to dream, and it was humanity, fragile, foolish humanity, who had remembered how. The last blueprint we uncovered was the strangest of all. It wasn't a machine, or a weapon, or even a city. It was a seed, a design for something that could grow, not from soil, but from thought, not in one place, but across countless worlds. A garden blooming in the void. We never fully understood it. Perhaps we weren't meant to. Perhaps it was the architect's final gift, or warning, but we planted it anyway. And somewhere, deep in the black, something began to grow. The galaxy will never stop fearing us, but fear is not the end. It is the beginning. Because fear means change. Fear means possibility. Fear means we have stepped where no one else dared. They called them the blueprints they feared. But to us, they were something else entirely. They were the proof that fear and wonder are not opposites. They are the same fire waiting to be lit. And humanity, always reckless, always dreaming, was the match.